Splicing the landscape between the Muslim-Arab Mount of Olives and the ramparts of the city walls of Jerusalem lies a sweeping valley that descends 4,000 feet along its 20-mile course to the Dead Sea. Many biblical scholars agree this is the site mentioned in Scripture as the Valley of Jehoshaphat, the Valley of God's Judgment according to a direct Hebrew translation. Today, as in biblical times, this gorge is called the Kidron Valley. It is hard to imagine that one day, according to Scripture, this valley could witness the convergence of the armies of the nations. The truth is, Israel is already at odds with the rest of the world, particularly in the eyes of the United Nations Human Rights Council.
The focus on Israel remains excessive. It's now 80% of the Council's resolutions are against Israel. And these resolutions are all one-sided. It's only Israeli violations, and there's no reference whatsoever to any other actor. There's no Arab states, there's no Palestinian groups, there's no Fatah, there's no Hamas, there's no Islamic Jihad, there's no Iran, there's nobody. It's just Israeli violations.
The UN and a majority of nations have officially adopted the two-state solution to peace and are willing to retract Israel's borders by carving the high ground of Samaria and Judea out of the heartland of Israel. Most nations simply do not recognize Jerusalem as Israel's capital, and they would applaud its conversion into an international city.
Future peace negotiations, Jerusalem is so central to the Jewish people. We mention it 667 times in the Hebrew Bible. We say at every wedding, if I forget thee, O Jerusalem, my tongue cling to the roof of its mouth. If I don't raise Jerusalem above all my joys. So it's absolutely, in any future peace negotiations, it's one of those issues that, there's nothing to talk about.
Yet the nations continue to dialogue. The September 23, 2011 visit of the Palestinian Authority to the United Nations has forced countries to expose where they stand on the Israel-Palestinian debate. At this point, a vote in favor of Palestinian statehood, despite its failure to honor the conditions of the Oslo Peace Accords, is clearly a vote against Israel's best interests.
Well, from an Israeli point of view, it's a very dangerous thing. For a Palestinian point of view, I think it's a smart thing for them to do, because the overwhelming majority of countries in the world, I think, will recognize a Palestinian state.
I think most of the world does not have a clue about what the Abbas and all the Palestinians and all the Arab nations are doing. They hate Jews, so how can anybody really negotiate with them?
Today, 127 out of the 194 UN member states already officially recognize Palestine as a state and regard the division of the land as the only solution to peace. Yet a remnant from the nations continue to come to Jerusalem every year to show their solidarity with the land and the people of Israel. Knowing the prophetic scriptures, they hope and pray that their nations will hang favorably in the balance, on side with Israel on the Day of Judgment in the Valley of Decision. Marnie Blom, Axe News Network, Jerusalem.